Welcome to the Healing Incubator podcast. I am your host, Kiana F. Brown, the forgiveness expert, and we are all about the truth, forgiveness, and healing. You are entering a controlled environment where there are others who are reaching to grow in their entrepreneurial journeys, personal lives, and self-care. Are you ready to heal? Hey guys, it's Kiana F. Brown, your forgiveness expert, and you are tuning into another episode of the Healing Incubator podcast. And tonight we have, or this morning, this afternoon, lunchtime, who knows what time you're watching or listening to this podcast. But however, we have an amazing guest here with us today. He's our first guest for the New Year's. Oh, check out the new merch, you guys. The new merch, Forgiveness Nation. We have it in different colors. If you want to customize, you can get it. And for those of you who are listening, I guess you need to go to YouTube to Kiana F. Brown Forgiveness Nation movement so that you can see what exactly I'm talking about. But we have Mr. Keishorne Scott here with us today. And when I tell you I read his bio, I read some information about him. Y'all know I don't give you the tea. I let them spill it themselves because who can tell it better than them? So guys, get excited about what we're going to talk about today. We're still, of course, all about forgiveness here on the Healing Incubator. And how do we do that? We get to first our truth, then we can start to heal, and then we can start to forgive, and then that's when the healing process starts. So that's where we reveal, release, and we regain our confidence. And I'm so glad that we have Mr. Scott here with us today because we're going to get into a little bit of that because that's some of his expertise. So guys, get excited. And let's Keishorne. I said I was gonna get it right, Mr. Keishorne Scott, you guys. Hey,
Hey, how you doing? Yes, and you definitely got it right. Thank you so much for having me. Yes.
excellent. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Happy
you
New
too.
Year
Yeah,
to you.
New Year. Yes, New
Yes,
Year.
we are in 2021. It's 2020 was an oddly weird year that none of us could have ever prophesized. Even though
No,
it speaks about it in the Bible of times to come, but we just didn't think that it was coming. So, glad to be on this other side. Have
for sure.
taken some things that I've learned from 2020. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very challenging. There's a lot of things that you learned from 2020, and one thing that I learned was patience and really to hold on to our families and friends a little bit closer, reach out to people more, and really
Mm,
see where your place is at in this world. Because it's very challenging. So it needs more love and less questioning everything that goes wrong because it's just crazy. You don't know what you're going to be hit with. I don't even know what March is going to look like for 2021. I have no, I have no hopes in March. I'm just trying to make it to the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th.
I know that's right. I was looking at the news this morning and they had some specialists on who were answering questions from social
Mhm.
media. And one of the questions were, do you think that we're going to ever get away from wearing masks? And the specialist
Mhm.
said, no, I think that we're going to be wearing masks pretty much for the rest of our lives. And I was just like, the rest of our lives, it just baffles me. And it's so astonishing to have gone through this. You hear about like the Spanish flu and things of that nature and how it was then. Actually, I knew nothing about the
Mm,
Spanish flu until this started happening and
yeah.
people started reverting back to history. But Mr. Scott, we are excited about having you here. And before we get any further, let you tell our listeners and viewers who you are.
All right. Well, my name is Keishorne Scott, as you said. I'm an author, coach, and I'm heartbreak and coach, and I help men and women heal after heartbreaks and broken relationships. Getting back
Mhm.
together, finding out who you are, and building up your self-esteem and your worth.
Wow, excellent. So I've seen that you've been like on television shows, you're been a part of something to do with Forbes, and just so much stuff that you have done. And you're two-time best-selling author. I mean, you're like really, really doing some great things. And
Mhm.
I believe that your message is so important, especially in the area of forgiveness. Because while we're here in this area of forgiveness, there are so many people who have gone through toxic relationships who need to rebuild, right? That's what we
Yep.
say here with Forgiveness Nation and the Healing Incubator, is that we have to reveal, restore, and regain. And after you've had those relationships, that's pretty much what you have to do. I looked up a quote not too long ago, and it talked about self care. And
Yeah.
this quote says, self care is never a selfish act, it is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. And I realized by reading that quote that sometimes when we go through toxic relationships, that we're not able to be who we were created to be, not even just in other relationships, but with others, because it kind of taints us and we become something that we don't want to be. And so I'd like to know how you help those. Let's just give a scenario. Let's say somebody has been in a relationship for
Hmm.
probably about 15 years, and they were really serious, committed, maybe not married yet, but just looking towards that and thought that that's where they were going to end up. And then all of a sudden, one of the person breaks ties. The person that's hurt the most did not break the ties. How would you offer help to this person to kind of rebuild their self value up again?
I mean, you have to take a step back. 15 years is a long time, which means
Mhm.
somewhere along that line, you knew that person wasn't for you. Because
Mm,
at least year 5 or year 7 or year 8, you said, you know what, I'm going to try to change him. Year after year, Happy New Year's, Merry Christmas, Thanksgiving passed, and you said, you know what, him or her, we try to change that person, but we keep losing ourselves. So every
mm,
year we choose them and we don't choose ourselves, we lose a piece of ourselves, right? So the first step, of course, is really evaluating what went wrong. We have to be honest with ourselves. One thing you
mhm,
said in the beginning of this whole entire podcast, you said truth. You have to accept the truth. And the truth is like the number one thing. You have to be honest with yourself and realize that, is this something, you have to start questioning yourself. Is this something that I really want? Does this bring out the best in me? Did it bring out the best in me? Right? If I was still in that relationship, would I be able to work on myself? Because there's a lot of things that you can't do when you're in a toxic relationship, right? You can't work on yourself. You will never figure out your dreams or your goals. You will never figure out what you're capable of doing. You will never be comfortable doing uncomfortable things. So one of the first steps is being honest with yourself and also forgiving yourself for staying that long. Because you have to forgive yourself because you could have left a little longer. You didn't have to put up with it. You could have choose you, but you choose
mhm.
them. You choose investing in them, pouring into them, and loving them. But you forgot all about you, your substance, and your purpose. So if you were out of that relationship, I always tell people, make a list. If you were in that relationship right now, what will you be doing? And now that you're single, what would you like to do? And of
Mm.
course, you're going to see that the right side is always better.
Yeah. Now, what would you say to the person who's like completely lost with making this list?
Hmm.
How would you help them or direct them in the right direction? Because I know that it's really hard when you have
Hmm.
lost yourself for so long and something that you really don't even know who you are anymore. And
Hmm.
so, how would you advise somebody to have a self discovery with themselves again?
I think one of the first step is taking a deep breath and relaxing, right? Because a lot of times when you first get into a breakup or a divorce or heartbreaking situation, you tend to be all over the place. So you just need a strong timeout and a strong reset. You can't really speak to someone in pain in the moment because their mind is, okay, what is he or she doing? Who are they with? What are they doing? They promised me all these things. Now they left me. They broke me. I will never find someone else. I'll be single forever. So you have to give people the opportunity to vent and to let it all
Mhm,
out until there's no more, because eventually you're going to be a little bit tired and all that venting and all that frustration is going to be let out, and then you're going to make room. It's like you're making room to
mhm.
accept some kind of love, some kind of help, and some kind of healing information, because I can't speak to you when you're broken and to the point where you're not really listening to me. You just want to vent and tell me how much you hate him or her, or how much you didn't like them, how much you wish they were hurt. We have to get a lot of that
Mhm.
junk out, right? And once you get
Yeah.
a lot of that junk out, then you kind of prepare yourself to listen to the person who wants to help you. And one of the first steps is kind of untangling you, because you're still attached to that person. You're still a part of that person. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. You're still there. I always compare it to a pair of headphones, right? You know the
Uh-huh.
headphones with the string. If you put two pairs of iPhone headphones in your pocket and you pull them back out from the same pocket, they're both tangled up. We don't know how. There's no science behind it, but for some reason, if you put two headphones in, it tangles up. But that's you and your partner. You guys share the same qualities at some point. You guys did the same things. So now you're by yourself. It's been 15 years. You have never been by yourself in 15 years. It is going to be
Yeah.
scary. It's going to be scary. Some people go to prison for 15 years. And when they come out of prison, it's like a whole new life. You see
Yeah.
cars that you haven't seen. Families have grown up, become better. People's in college, people have jobs, babies. There's so much changing. So now you're like an alien in your own life. So
Wow.
you have to understand that it's a process and it's a journey and it's not going to happen overnight.
Mm.
Scientifically speaking, it takes about 18 plus years to fully get over someone. Fully
Wow.
get over someone. And that's scary. That's a year and a half. That's a long time. But for you to really get back to you got to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. Awesome information. I never knew that tidbit. I guess, sometimes in my life I have dealt with situations where uh I thought I released everything, and
Hmm.
then maybe years later something comes up and I kind of feel a little eerie, and it's like, oh, well, wait a minute, I don't think you completely healed from that yet.
Hmm.
So it's amazing how that can happen. But I want to know something, Keishorne. I want to
Hmm.
know um what drove you to the passion of helping, because you've given a lot of great nuggets. I mean, I've even written some stuff down. You got to get the junk out and you got to
Hmm.
untangle yourself. So you're giving valuable information, and I understand, just like with my journey and sharing the message of forgiveness, that I had a life altering situation that made me step into this direction and made me extremely passionate, because I've read your bio and you are extremely passionate about what you're doing. So, what was it that happened
Hmm.
to Mr. Scott that made him
Yeah.
say, I am devoting my life to making sure
Mm.
that others do not suffer the way I did?
I mean, I went through a terrible breakup in 2010, 2011, to the point where it changed who I was. And to this day, I'm grateful for it, right? And it wasn't like horrible, terrific, but you lost someone, right? Someone that you thought you were going to spend the rest of your life with, right? And then
Yeah.
at times, you hurt yourself chasing someone who doesn't love you. So I've seen how hurtful and detrimental it could be to one's value and your self-worth.
Hmm.
You're chasing people who don't love you. You're chasing people who don't want you, and you think that other people can complete you. But in reality, is that you can complete yourself. You're whole already. You might be a
Yeah.
little bruised, a little blemished, but you're whole already. So when I found stuff like that, I was like, okay, Keishon, this is not you. Granted, you weren't the best boyfriend either, but
Mhm.
for what
I
happened,
like that. I like that. You're
yeah,
taking ownership.
responsibility, exactly.
Yes.
You weren't the best boyfriend, but at the end of the day, you don't deserve to put yourself through this. So I
Mm.
wrote a list for myself. I said, it's time for you to heal and do better. So it started with forgiveness. I remember going to her house, apologizing, forgiving, and telling her, I'm moving on, but I'm sorry for whatever I did, and I forgive you for whatever you did. So, but I'm choosing to move on. So this
Mm.
conversation is not I want you back conversation. This is I'm fully moving on conversation. I'm
It's
fully
not
accepting
that
who I
bad.
am. Yeah, this is that good best. This that I'm finding my good and goodbye conversation. So as
Hmm.
time propelled, I found, because I was doing something I tell people every single day. I'm calling, I'm texting, hey, what you doing? Even if she's in another relationship. But then I
Mm.
realized that what am I doing to myself? Like, what
Wow.
am I doing to me? It hurts so bad. What am I doing to my life? Like, I'm chasing this person and I'm investing in this and nothing's coming back to me. I'm not loving myself. So I
Hmm.
created a list. I said, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna work out, I'm gonna read more books, and I'm gonna figure out the traits that I have in myself right now that I don't want to take in
Hmm.
to other years, right? That I don't want to become a husband and a father with. So I said my anger, I had anger issues, change that. I had patience was one of my issues. I changed that. So I started changing the things inside myself to prepare myself for my wife and for my family in the future. So it was a struggle of ups and downs, but I realized that it was killing me more than it was helping me.
Mm.
Checking your ex social media all the time, Always, why is me? Blame yourself for things that you couldn't control. And once I realized that we're human and we're going to make mistakes, right? We're going to fall, right? And we don't expect everybody to love us. Everybody have different hearts. So everybody's
Yeah.
not going to fight for us the way we want people to. We expect people to fight for us.
Hmm.
So throughout that whole process, it's taught me how to love myself more and to realize that there's much more in store for me. And today I got a beautiful wife. I'm married. I have a wonderful
Oh,
4-year-old daughter. So
congratulations.
when I tell people, yeah, when I tell people that you can be happy and
Hmm.
everything you want is on the other side of fear, I'm telling you, I was just like everybody else. I was in bed like, this is never going to go away. This is painful. I can't believe this. God help me. I'm going to church. You pray every 10 seconds. You pray for healing. Then 2 minutes after that, God, I'm here praying for healing again. I heard you the first time. I don't need to hear
Hmm.
you. And it's crazy. Pain makes you repeat your prayers 10 times in 1 hour because
Yes.
it's like you're waiting for some magical treatment or a magical touch, and it's not going to happen. You have to
Mhm.
go through the process, and it's painful and it's hurtful. But at the end of it, there's a reward for you.
Wow, I love that. We all have to remember that we have to go through that pain so that we can get to the powerful end that God
Hmm.
has created for us. Now, speaking about praying and going to church and things of that nature, I love my
Hmm.
word. And so the scripture that I wanted to bring up today is in Ephesians 3:12. It says, "In him and through faith in him, we may approach God with freedom and confidence." And that reminded me of the self value that you talk about, because I
Hmm.
believe that if we learn to have confidence, for me is God or whomever else in your higher power, but for me is God. If we learn to have confidence in ourselves, excuse me, if we learn to have confidence in God, then He will allow for us to have that confidence within ourselves, which we will have a higher value for
Hmm.
ourselves. And then return, it's like a domino effect. And then in return, we will not allow for ourselves to go through those taunting, those heartbreaking relationships because we know who we are. Right. And so I think it's very important that people understand about that confidence factor as it relates to self values. What do you have to say about that?
No, that's true. That's true, and that's a very very powerful scripture. And one of like to piggyback off of that, like one of the scriptures that I like that's kind of like intertwined with that, I'm gonna say it, is that God is close to the brokenhearted and He saved those crushed in spirit. And
Mm,
it also go back to faith. A lot of people, you can't put our self worth and our self value in people, right?
hmm.
And the fact that a lot of people, they really have a very limited belief. The most faithful person, they don't believe that they
Yeah.
can that they have value, that they don't believe, because it all starts back from the core belief. What is your
Hmm.
belief system? How much do you believe that faith without deeds is dead, right? So if you believe, if you have faith in the that you will heal, what are you
Hmm.
doing on the end in
Yeah.
order to prove that faith? And that goes back right to self-value and self-worth and really loving yourself and expecting high of who you are and not allowing people to determine your
Yes.
self-worth. Like I always tell people, we will get into a relationship when we fall in love just like that. We
Hmm.
will be with someone or talk to someone for a couple of days and be like, I think I'm in love. Like, what do you love about this person? Well,
Yeah.
they treat me right, they do this, but that's not who they
Lust.
are. Give
It's
them time to
lust.
develop. Yeah. So and it's a lot of time it's the lust and you just like in their
Mhm.
appearance and what they're showing you. And you
Yeah.
haven't had that in so long. So your self-worth is like, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna find someone else better than this. And that goes back
Yeah.
to your low self-esteem. You're not gonna, in your mind, if you feel like you're not gonna find someone better than this, then you're gonna do whatever it takes to keep that person,
Mm,
compromising and settling to keep that person. And that's what we do. We always put ourselves down and put other people first, even if we barely know the person. And we lower
mhm.
our standards and our self-worth in the process. And we shouldn't do nothing like that. We should always be, I always tell people, be cocky and be cocky and keep dating as gathering information and as a resume. I want to see if you're good for my life and I want to see if I'm good for your life. But what I'm not going to do is settle or compromise. So I'm going through this whole healing process again after you came out a bunch of mess.
Wow, that when you said be a little cocky, that reminded me of the quote that we shared earlier in the
Hmm.
podcast, and it says self-care is never a selfish act. And so sometimes we have to have that belief in ourselves. And I believe a lot of people feel that don't have the power, or feel that they can't step out there, or feel that they can't feel of a certain value about
Hmm.
themselves. But as you said, you have to have that little bit of specialness or that little spunk about yourself
Yeah.
so that you'll know exactly who you are.
Yeah.
Wow, I am really, really enjoying this. We already talked about the podcast earlier that it was not a long one, and we're
Hmm.
already at 20 minutes. I can't
Oh, I
believe
didn't.
it.
Yeah.
But we did talk about one thing, and I shared with you about the oxygen mask. So now is my time to
Hmm.
get a little bit more deeper into what it is. Our oxygen mask is where words breathe like fresh air. When you inhale the motivation, it acts as oxygen, informing our brains to reset our mindsets. Please share a minute of motivation that will inspire our listeners and viewers' lives.
I'm gonna stick on the topic of self-love, you know, and self-care and just caring about yourself and forgiveness also. I'm gonna just jump around but be organized with it. I will say, one thing is that we have to care about ourselves. We have to care about ourselves more than we care about people. And we have to love ourselves more than we love people. The thing about we have relationships and even friendships, and we love people more than we love ourselves. So we allow people to treat us any kind of way, right? Because we love them. And that's not fair to who we are. At some point in our life, we have to take charge of our life. We have to be the best person in our life. We have to learn how to love ourselves, how to care about ourselves. And if that means separating from other people in order to get our life together, then that's okay.
Mhm.
I'm talking about separating from family members, separating from friends, co-workers, even a job, or whatever it may be, right? You have to start loving yourself first. Because once you start loving yourself, then you give yourself the ability to love everybody else. And now people can get you fully. They can get Keishorne fully, right? They can get you fully. And I want to give people 100%. I don't want to give people 20% or 30%. But we can't keep that with a broken heart, a broken mindset. Always blaming yourself, always thinking about the worst, always thinking that there's nobody out there for you. A lot of people, you had the same thinking in 2020. Now it's 2021 and you have the same exact thinking, right? You're going to
Carried it
repeat
right
year
over.
after year. Yeah. So a lot of people, you've been broken in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. And you're bringing that same broken mindset into 2021. Something have to change. And we can't babysit you every single year. And I'm sure you probably, coach or speak to people or counsel people, and we speak to the same people or we see the same people on social media month after month, year after year. We can't hold your hand and babysit you. At some point in your life, you have to say enough is enough. And you have
Yeah.
to put your foot down in your own life and want it for yourself. We can want it for you based on our experience, but you have to want it for yourself based on your experience, right?
Mm.
And that's the best thing that I say for your entire year. You have to want it for yourself. There's no more holding your
Awesome.
hand or blaming yourself. We have to want it for yourself and keep going and pushing yourself throughout this whole year to get what you or what God has for you.
Wow. Thank you, Keishorn. That was some awesome, awesome
You're
information.
welcome.
So that is, I am pretty sure that it has opened somebody's airways up and now they're able to breathe and reset their mindset. Before we go, I really wanted you to share a little bit about your two
Hmm.
best-selling books. If you can
Yes.
give us a little bit of
Hmm.
information about your books.
Yeah, well, I mean, Life is a book about love, insecurities, friends, and envy. So that talks about love and life in my life and what I've learned throughout the love stage of my life. Very small snippets of just love, my relationship, forgiveness as well, and just how I grew up. Um, I starts with insecurities. I had a lot of insecurities growing up because I believed that everybody was more blessed than I was, right? And everybody had this and had that. And I'm an immigrant from Trinidad. So I feel like, my family had to work so hard for certain things. When I came to America, everybody was just having things. So I was insecure about a lot of things, and envious, which I'm going to get into about things. Also about friends, family members. I didn't have a good relationship with my family and friends, and I realized how important those friendships are. That love is from your family. And at some points in my life, I felt like I never got it and I had to fight for the love, that I wasn't getting. And it was hard, especially when you're a kid and you don't know how to process certain things. So if someone tells you
Mhm.
something, that's not what they really mean. But when you're a child, that's what you mean because I'm hurt.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to process my emotions or my feelings. And then it talks about envy. I used to envy everything that everybody else have because my mother and my father really didn't have much money growing up. So if my friend had a PlayStation or clothes or sneakers or Jordans, I used to envy that because I couldn't get those things. And I really didn't have a social security number or stuff like that to work. So I had to do odd jobs just to keep up with everybody else in high school or just look the part. And as children, that's what you had. You had to look good and dress good so you won't be made fun of in certain things. So as I grow older, I realized that being envy really robs you of the beauty of life and what you really have in front of you.
Absolutely.
Then the next, yeah. Then the next book is the mouse, the bird, the dog, and the lion. Three types of men to avoid and one to marry. So it talks about the mouse man, sneaky cheater, compared to a mouse
Okay.
always comes out at night. And then you have the dog. The dog is you might think he's the man's best friend, but if you leave the gate open, he's gonna go do his dirt, come back, and try to brush up on your leg like everything's okay. But he's not. The dog's also jealous. So if he sees you
Mm,
talking to another man, just like a dog is petting another dog, it's gonna come up there and be like, okay, well, pet me too. I'm here too. Um, and then it talks about the bird. The bird is a type of man who is very uncomfortable having arguments or disagreements. So anytime he's I have an argument or disagreement, he flies to another woman's coop, or he just flies away, doesn't come back, goes somewhere else, comes back whenever he wants because he's uncomfortable in that season.
mm,
Then it talks about the king, the lion, which is the one who's the lion. He's there, he protects, he provides. He's not 100% good. He might have a little bit of bird in him, but not a full blown, I'm out of the house. He might,
mhm,
walk away from the situation, but he's in the same household. He might be a little jealous, with a little dog, but he shouldn't have any mousy ways. Mousy ways is the sneakiness and the cheating ways. But the lion could have a little bit of jealousy, like a dog. He might have a little bit of um, doesn't know how to handle kind of arguments like the bird, but he's not fully flying away. He might
mhm.
go into another room or something until he's ready to talk. So those are the two books.
Oh, well, awesome. Look, y'all just got a whole resource of information. If you want to get in a relationship, he giving you the tea
Yes.
about these pen in the books, woman. So,
Hmm.
ladies, you need to
Thank
pay
you.
attention and get the book. And then the other book just breaks down a various assortment of things that we go through in life. And sometimes we don't know how to champion or challenge through. And so we thank you, Mr. Keishorne Scott, for
You're more than
being
welcome
here.
anytime.
Uh,
I appreciate it.
Yes, yes. So I know that others are interested. I know they want to know where to get your books, and I know
Hmm.
that they want to know how they can stay connected with you. Please share with them how they can do so.
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at Keishorne Scott. My name is on there, so just type in Keishorne Scott and you'll find it. KeishorneScott.com and at Keishorne Scott or at Facebook or Instagram. Or you can go on Amazon and type in Keishorne Scott on Amazon as well.
Okay, awesome. So your name will be on the
Hmm.
podcast, but for those who are just listening, it's Keishorne Scott double
Yep.
T. Yep. So I am excited for whoever gets these books. I think I want the one that talks about the animals.
Yeah,
Even though I'm married,
that's the best one. Yep.
it still seems like it's going to pose a lot of information in there for me. So, again, we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart here at the Illing Incubator podcast,
Thank you
as
very
well
much.
as being the number one representative for Forgiveness Nation. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, and we pray that you have a blessed and prosperous 2021 as you're being our first guest in the new year.
Yes, that means
Guys,
a lot.
stay tuned, stick around. Don't forget, you guys, there is a new short film coming out soon called Mask Off. We are going into production. We have already got all of the filming shot. And this Sunday, literally, guys, we're going to go in and to start edit everything and get it together so we can have it to you all soon. Those are movies that are all about healing through the power of forgiveness, right? Trying to get together something that we can really watch that's not all
That's
about
good.
bad things but people can grasp a hold of healing more if they're seeing it. You know, it's one thing for us to talk about it, but when somebody actually sees it, they might be able to see themselves and see where they need to shift and change. So, guys, stay tuned for that.
Amen.
And we're going to be out of here for today. I just want you all to remember that today is your stepping stone for a greater tomorrow. And don't forget to tune in next week because we're having another dose of oxygen with me, guest Kiana F. Brown. Again, thank you, Mr. Keishorne Scott,
You're
and
welcome.
we're
Thank you very
out of
much.
here.
All right.
All right. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.